Hey everybody, ronarray here, and my custom CoC Lightning Comet Monk is going pretty strong. So in this video I wanted to do a few updates and showcase what I changed in the build, what I improved, how we changed the tree, and also showcase an alternative setup. But first off, let's start with the question that people are asking me pretty often. There's been a GGG tweet about meta skills around 1 day ago. And a lot of people are asking me, is a Comet or custom CoC right now nerfed? So basic answer to that is no, because currently that tweet is not really affecting us in any way. Custom CoC is not really affected, and most of the changes aim to cast on Ignite instead, so you can completely relax about it. Now let's go forward and talk what I changed about the build, how can you improve it, moving in. And first off, let's start with my items. A lot of people are asking what kind of quarter staff you need to use. So for the quarter staff, perfectly you need to get as much physical as possible. So here is an example of the quarter staff that I'm using. If you can get +2 level 4 melee skill gems, it would be very good. So generally just going for physical damage, a little lightning damage, and using double physical rune is probably the best course of action, because you're going to convert most of your physical damage to lightning damage anyway. And another improvement that come up in the few following days, it's pretty much body armor. Body armor plays very big role for Monk, because you can improve your spirit based on that and your survivability based on it too. So reaching big survivability is pretty important, and I recommend to generally roll a pretty good body armor, mostly focusing on evasion rating and energy shield. Here is a good example. If you can get some life and resistances in, it would be very good. However, just focusing on evasion rating and energy shield is the most important part here. Don't forget to use runes for evasion and energy shield too, because those can improve your defensive capabilities significantly. And finishing with the items, I also changed my gloves. And for the gloves, it's very important to improve your attack speed, because attack speed is going to lead us to more shocks that we are receiving consistently. So I recommend to roll attack speed on almost all cases of the gloves. And the rest of the items should just go for life and resistances by themselves. Now let's talk about our setup and skills that I changed. So currently we are still using custom CoC together with Comet, because that's the best current setup to do as much damage as possible with custom skills. I'm using it together with Spell Echo and Concentrated Effect for more damage, and I'm also adding Impetus, because with Impetus we can pretty much trigger Comet only after 3 sets of shock, and that's very effective. I don't think we can push it to 2, however I will definitely try, but right now with Impetus we can get Comet after 3 shocks, and that's very effective for our damage. And for auras, I changed to the setup with the Ghost Dance, because since we have a lot of energy shield from our body armor right now, we can get Ghost Dance to pretty much make sure that our energy shield will stay up at all times. So I'm using fast forward with it, because less skill effect duration is helping Ghost Dance. And another cool combination that I'm currently using is Combat Frenzy. I repicked to it yesterday evening to today's morning, and I think it's very effective right now. It can give you bonus that gain frenzy charges when you freeze, electrocute, or pin an enemy. Since we are freezing very often, we are going to receive charges consistently. And we can also pair it with Profusion. Supported skills have 50% chance to grant an additional charge. I'm also using Clarity here to pretty much fix my mana issue. So you will ask me why we even need frenzy charges. The answer is very basic. We are going to use Resonance. Gain power charges instead of frenzy charges. So every time when we are freezing an enemy, we have a chance to get power charge, and we can use power charge to pretty much trigger charge stuff. Charge stuff here is providing us with additional lightning damage, is providing us with a shockwave, and it really helps to reach enemies that kind of stand too far away. So that combination gives us a chance to just use Tempest Flurry in map without heavily bothering with it. So for the Tempest Flurry, supports are staying the same. We're going for Martial Tempo, Lightning Infusion, and Conduction. The last support probably is going to be Inspiration, to just fix our mana. So if you prefer to map with Tempest Flurry, you can combine it with Charge Stuff, that way and it's going to be significantly more comfortable for you. However, if you still prefer to map with Stormwave, that's alright. I'm running with a Stormwave pretty often, so Stormwave will work in the same fashion, you can use the same supports here, and Charge Staff will work for Stormwave as well. So that combination is working for both skills. However, I still recommend to both with Tempest Flurry and clear monsters with Stormwave for more efficiency. But if you don't want to repeat, you can choose only one skill and run it. For Stormwave, supports are the same, and the last one Inspiration, because otherwise our mana situation is not going to be that good. So next step is Tempest Bell. If you are using Tempest Flurry, there's a huge point to use a Tempest Bell as well, because that way we can make sure our damage is even higher. For Tempest Bell I'm using Blind, Ruthless and Rage. That way we can stun more often, we can get some Rage in the process, and we can get blind on enemies. I think it's pretty effective. With Charge Staff we are going to literally melt bosses, especially if we are using Tempest Flurry. So all of that combination is very simple, and we have a few open slots. You should have enough spirit. If you have around 137 spirit, you should have enough to get Ghost Dance, Cast on Shock and Combat Frenzy all at the same time. However, if you don't have enough and you really like Charge Stuff, you can drop Ghost Dance for now. I will also experiment with Spirit a little further later on. So now let's talk about R3, what changed. You probably noticed, if you're following my builds, that I dropped that cluster as Lightning Cluster. So I tested Endless Circuit and it's not really working that good anymore. And Wild Storm is only buffing our lightning damage. Our Comet is dealing cold damage instead, so we don't really need to buff our lightning damage further. That way I just repicked and picked as many crit nodes as possible. So we are going up here in the cluster, we are taking critical hit chance, we are taking critical damage bonus, together with Deadly Force for even more crit chance and additional bonus too. And to the left we are picking a very cool set of nodes, Iken Frost. It giving us elemental damage if you shield an enemy recently, and elemental damage is generally better because it's going to boost both our Comet damage, which is cold, and our lightning damage, which is like the rest of our attacks. So elemental damages works just perfectly, it's buffing everything at the same time. And here we have Iken Thunder, and since we are constantly shocking enemies, it's going to have a very good uptime. I'm also moving to the left here and taking Rapid Recharge to make sure that we have a faster Energy Shield recharge and faster start of it. And I'm taking Mana Blessing because we need as much mana as possible, because Comet itself is very mana hungry. I'm also taking 3 points here, like 4 of them, I'm sorry, going for Insightfulness. It's going to give us additional intelligence, some mana regeneration and more Energy Shield. As the next nodes, I'm probably going to go up here for Spectral Ward because I think it's working very good and it can provide a huge amount of additional Energy Shield to boost our survivability. So going 4 points like that. But for now it's just on the plans. So the 3 stays the same. We're going for the shock, we're taking some criticals, and the only thing that we dropped is cluster here. We're also still going up for Energize and taking as much critical hit chance as possible in the tree. And if you're going to use the combination that I showcased with Frenzy Aura, you can use Resonance as well. However, if you still want to run for better survivability like Blasphemy and Temporal Chains or Enfeeble, you can pretty much drop Resonance altogether, and instead of Ghost Dance and Combat Frenzy, you can just run Enfeeble and Bluff. There's also a few important things that you need to keep in mind. It's pretty much using runes should help you a lot because you will boost your resistance significantly. And even in the endgame, I still have resistances around like 40%. It's not perfect, but it's sustainable, and if you're not playing hardcore, you can still go forward. However, I recommend to boost them at least to level like 70, 75 as fast as possible. And another important part is Chaos Resistance. Investing in Chaos Resistance would help you a lot with your survivability. So generally I recommend to get it as high as possible, especially since we're investing in Energy Shield heavily, and that way Chaos is a big issue for us, because Chaos is very effective against Energy Shield. The rest of the resistances are less important. We also have a Rage rating and you need to push it as high as possible too. For the Amulet, I recommend to go for stats. I think I haven't mentioned that before, but it's helping a lot with intelligence and all attributes. Spirit will be unnecessary after we will get the next ascendancy, and I will update the build accordingly. So stay tuned, I'm going to showcase all the upcoming changes in the next few videos. Thank you very much for watching as usual, and hope you're enjoying the Monk. See you next time.